Welcome to another edition of Urban Forum as part of the Community Awareness Series of the Jersey City Public Library. We're here in the studio of Cable Access, Channel 51 of Jersey City Cable Television. A very special guest here today is author, educator, Baruti Kafele, who is also currently a resident here of Jersey City. Welcome to Urban Forum.
Thank you for having me. Thank
you. We not too long ago we received copies of your book, and it had some very interesting content there on the preparation of young African American students preparing for an academic life, academic career. Can you give us some insight, some elaboration on the book and the title itself, and what motivated you to put this together?
Okay, yeah, the title is A Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children Outside the Classroom. Basically, I wrote this book because there's such an alarming and frightening need for literature of this nature. I looked around for books that were in a step-by-step format that parents could use to apply immediately. There are a lot of good books out there on educating African American youth, but being an educator, I found that there were just too many problems, especially parents not being involved in the educational process. I started asking the question, maybe parents need something to assist them in becoming educators. So since the book wasn't written or available, I went on and wrote it myself. So basically what it is, it's a step-by-step approach describing how parents can become much more actively involved in their children's educational growth and development outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And there's a second book here that you have on goal setting, and how does that correspond with this one?
There's a section in A Black Parent's Handbook called Goal Setting. A lot of parents expressed an interest in that particular section, especially parents outside of the traditional parental role. So I decided to write a pamphlet solely devoted to goal setting. So it deals with setting goals, but then developing strategies or a plan of attack in terms of achieving our goals, whether it be on an individual level or collective. And then taking it a step further, devising tactics in order to go about following through on a strategy, which ultimately we want to achieve our goals.
Okay, you have a chapter here on study skills and test-taking strategies. How would one go about this? I mean, what are some of those steps?
Okay, the reason that I even dealt with that particular issue, study skills and test-taking strategies, because too many of our children, not all of them, but too many of our children don't know how to study. See, studying is not simply picking up a book and reading. There's a science to studying. We have to know how to approach studying. So I'm saying first and foremost, we have to have an academic environment in our home as best we possibly can, such as a work area that's tidy, organized, and well lit, keeping the noise to a minimum, if not none at all. And then just having that academic environment. Then in the book, I go into how you would go about studying certain subjects such as spelling, vocabulary, science, mathematics, and social studies, breaking it down into how a parent can assist a child in studying those particular areas. And I also want to say, in regard to that, I don't mean studying something that's necessarily distorted or inaccurate, looking at a subject such as social studies. I say in the book that we need to become Afrocentric. We need to study from our perspective. So this is jumping to another chapter, but still staying focused on study skills. We as parents need to be in a position where if our children are bringing home distorted or negative information about our people or our struggle, we're in a position where we can either counter that or put it into some type of perspective so they understand what's going on. But if we're not even in tune or involved with what they're doing, then this negative information will be injected into their minds, and it's going to stay with them for life. And then you see some of the problems that we have in our environment, our community. A part of that is the reason.
Part of lack of discipline and focus on that. You have, interestingly, a set of goals, and that you refer to as Baruti's goals.
Right.
And that, if you could let myself and our listeners know, what are the Baruti goals?
Okay, well, and I just use my name as example when I put Baruti's goals in the book. But what I mean is, when you go about setting goals for yourself, I recommend that the goals be written down on a chart or post-it paper, oak tag. And there's basically four levels to goal setting. The first is your current status. You want to determine where it is you presently are. So, for example, if you're a C student in science, that's where you are. You're a C student, but you want to be able to determine where you are, and that answers the question, where am I coming from? All right, so that's the current status. For each subject, you would write what your current grade average is. These are academic goals. Next is the goal itself. That's where you want to go. That's the target that you're aiming for. You want to have that focus, that direction. That is your target. That is your goal. So for each subject, you would write, for example, if you're a C student in science, now you want to strive for a B or an A. All right, and you would break that down by subject. Next is your strategy. It's one thing to set a goal, but then you have to have a plan of attack. I use the analogy of football. Anytime you watch a football game, you always see that the teams break out into a huddle after each play. What they're doing is they're formulating a plan for the next set of that, well, for the next down. And it's the same thing. We need a plan of attack in order to achieve our goals. So I'm saying, once we set the goal, now how are we going to go about achieving the goal? Is it going to be, for example, cutting down on television first and foremost, studying this subject X amount of hours, studying this subject X amount of hours, and going all the way down through the subjects. And lastly is the tactic, and the tactic is the specific of the strategy. So therefore, if you were going to study social studies or science, maybe the tactic would be, I'm going to study page 10 through page 20. I'm going to learn the first 5 vocabulary words at the end of the chapter, etc. But these are the specifics of the particular strategy that you devise to achieve your goals.
This is all